Good morning, friends. Myself Manish Kumar. I am an architect presently working at GPCG Patiala. My today's topic is of isometrics. It is a second semester architectural drawing subject. So, before starting isometrics, all the students should have knowledge of orthographic projections. So, they should be clearly aware of what is plan, what is elevation, what is section, what is side view, etc. Isometrics drawings are very simple and very easy to understand, and after completing isometric drawings, these drawings give sense of completion. So let us start with the introduction and basics of isometrics. I have divided this series of isometric lectures into 3 lectures. In first lecture we will do introduction and basics. In second we will do drawings with non-isometric edges. In third we will do curved surfaces or some complex surfaces or some buildings if possible. So let us start with the first part of the isometrics. In this we will learn basics of isometrics. So let us start. First of all, some facts about isometrics. Okay, first of all, a brief definition like an isometric is actually a three-dimensional drawing An isometric is a three-dimensional drawing because height, width and depth are drawn on a single plane. Student can write this. An isometric is actually a three-dimensional drawings because height or components showing height, width component and depth components of the objects are drawn on a single plane. Next, in isometric drawings, all the three edges oblique axis, that is height components, width components and depth are exactly, or we can say equally inclined to the picture plane. In isometric drawings, all the three edges, oblique axis, that is height, width and depth, are equally inclined to the picture planes. These statements or definitions will be more clear when we will do these with some examples. At present, just keep on noting this. Or some more facts, an isometric drawing is a form of pictorial drawing used to make three-view drawing. Three-view means orthographic. Orthographic drawing comprising of plans, elevations and side elevation, etc. Easier to visualize. An isometric drawing is a form of pictorial drawing used to make three-view drawing easier to visualize. That means these drawings are more clearer and give clearer picture of the objects. Write some more facts. Isometric drawing lines are drawn parallel to an isometric axis. You just keep on noting these statements, and these statements will be more clear in the subsequent examples. And horizontal and vertical measurements are directly taken from orthographic means same, those simple drawings, plan, elevation and side elevation drawings. Horizontal and vertical measurements are directly taken from orthographic drawings. And transferred to corresponding axis. That is, length component will be transferred to the length axis and width on the width axis, etc. And one more point of facts. Generally, hidden lines are not drawn. Generally, these lines are not drawn, but we can draw if required. So, these were some facts or statements about isometrics. Students should be aware of all these statements. So, let us start some drawing part. Like, isometric edges are equally inclined to the picture plane. Say this board represents picture plane, and we have three axes which are equally inclined to this picture plane. These are three axes, say A, B and C. These are three axes of the object, say a simple cube, and these are equally inclined to the picture plane, right. So, how we can draw a cube? Say this is the side of cube. So, mark this, and this is second side of cube. So, we will draw this line, right, and say this is depth same. In case of a cube it will be same. Say this is a length component of a cube, this is width component of cube, this is depth component of cube, and these three are A, B and C. A, B, C, A, B and C are isometric edges, axis, or we can say edges. A, B and C are isometric axis or isometric edges, and we have transferred all the lines, all the dimensions to these edges. And for completing cube, we draw a line parallel like this. This line is parallel to this line, right, and this line is parallel to this line, and for drawing its depth, these lines are again parallel. 1, 2, 3. These lines are parallel to this axis, line C. Say this is point O, OC line, right? And these lines 1, 2, 3, all these three lines are parallel to OA axis, right? And third set of line is, say this 1, 2 and 3. These three lines are parallel to the OB axis. Now, from this drawing, we can clearly see that this is a three-dimensional drawing, right? This part here is top of cube. This is a front of cube. And this is a side of cube. So, on a single plane, flat plane, we are seeing all the three views. We are having a top, we are having front, and we are having side. So, this is example of an isometric drawing. It is a 3D drawing. It gives three views, and it is very easy to understand. Everybody can understand that this is a picture of a cube, right? So, we have drawn this drawing from the knowledge of orthographic. In orthographic, cube's drawing will be like this: square here, square in plan, and square in side elevation. We have combined these three views. These are orthographic. These are 2D drawings, and there is a 3D drawing of a cube. I hope you understand this. Now to some more questions, more examples. In isometrics, you can have two types of questions. One type is statement type. Statement type questions. In statement type questions, you will be given some statement, right? You have to understand the statement and draw the isometrics accordingly, right? And second will be, you will be given some orthographic drawings. Okay, you will be given some orthographic sketch or drawing, and you are supposed to convert that drawing into isometrics, right? First, we will take example of a statement type questions. In statement type questions, say first simple question, draw isometrics of a, say, standard break, or the questioner can give you size also, say 9 inches into 4.5 inches into, say, 3 inches. Length of the break is, say, 9 inches, width 4.5 inches, and height, say, 3 inches, right? So, how to draw isometric of a standard break? Very simple steps. First, we will do everything in guidelines. Just draw a horizontal line, right? This represents our ground line, right? We can say ground line. Initially, we will draw everything in guidelines, right? Then we will draw a line like this, say from O, right? This line represents our one axis line, one isometric line, and all the length components of the object will be represented on this line, say length line, to represent length components. All the lengthwise components will be represented on this line, right? And this angle here is 30 degree, right? Draw second line which is like this. Again this angle is 30, right? And this line represents the axis, say this is length. So, this axis can be for representing width lines, right? And we require one more axis, say this is third line, vertical line, right? This line represents, say, height. Or we can say depth axis, right? All these three lines 1, 2 and 3 are called isometric axis, and all the lines are drawn parallel to these lines. All isometric lines are drawn parallel to these lines. So, in case of a break, we have a length of, say, 9 inches. What we will do is, we will take a scale and mark 9 inch from here. Say up to here it is 9 inches, right? We have marked length. Now mark the width on width line. 4.5 inches is width. Say this is 4.5 inches. I will make it little thicker so that it is clearly visible to you, right? Now for height component or depth component, mark 3 inches on directly on this line. Say this is 3 inches, right? Now there is a rule in isometrics that all parallel lines are parallel. If object has a parallel lines, and those lines in isometric drawing will also be parallel to each other, right? So, for drawing other lines, we will do like this. First of all, we will draw a line parallel to this line. First name this, say this line is OA. Draw a line parallel to line OA like this. in guidelines, right? And on the width side also draw a line parallel to, say this is B, OB. Draw a line parallel to line OB like this in guidelines, right? We can draw these lines with 30-degree angle with T square or parallel bar or set square, 30-degree lines, right? As this is 30, this angle will also be 30. Then there is another rule, vertical lines remains vertical, like you should remember these two golden points. Parallel lines of the object remains parallel and perpendicular lines of the object remain perpendicular to the ground line, to this line. From here draw line like this, from here draw vertical line like this. This line is basically vertical edge of the brick and this is perpendicular to this line here. This is 90-degree angle, right? Then you can again draw a line parallel to this line OA from here. Then another line parallel to line OB from this point, like this. This will give you the isometric drawing of a brick. In the end, we can dark these lines. These are dark lines because these are direct visible edges of brick. So what we have done, we have drawn three axes. One, this axis OA at 30-degree to this line, then OB axis which is again at 30-degree angle to this line, and one vertical line, say OC, which represents vertical axis. And we have drawn all the length components on the length axis, width component on the width axis, and height on the third axis, right? So we have drawn a basic shape of the brick. So if we need to draw a frog of the brick, we can draw frog of the brick also. Say in plan, brick is like this, in plan, right? If we see a brick from top, view will be something like this, right? This represents frog. Depression in the brick, right? As from the plan, it is very clear that these lines are parallel, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can draw, say this is 1 inch, say 1 inch, this gap here, and this is also 1 inch. So we'll mark 1 inch here and 1 inch here, right? And draw lines in guidelines parallel to these lines OA, like this. This space is 1 inch and this is 1 inch, right? We have drawn two parallel lines parallel to edge OA, right? So this is also 1 inch here and this is also 1 inch. Say from all sides it is 1 inch. So mark 1 inch here and mark 1 inch from here and draw lines parallel like this, right? So this will give us top lines of the frog. We can dog these lines because these are also visible edges of the brick. So we all know that frog has some depth, right? Say this depth is ½ inch. So how to mark depth? From this principle, vertical lines remains vertical. Depth of the frog will be downward from here. So go ½ inch down from here, right? Again parallel line like this and this, right? This will give us depth of the frog. Just to clear the depth, we can draw small lines like this. right? This represents depth of the break, which is a frog. I hope it is clear to you, right? So this gives us orthographic. As per our question, we are supposed to draw isometric of a standard break. So this is isometric of a standard break, right? In the end, you should write isometrics of given break, right? So for drawing this isometric, we should have a clear knowledge of plan of the break and elevation and depth, or we can say the basic shape should be clear in our minds. So let's take one more example, statement type question also. In this question, say there is a question in exam, draw isometric of a cube, say size of the cube is 5 centimeter, right? Draw isometric of a cube which is resting centrally on a, say, cuboid. Size of the cuboid is, say, 10, length 10, width and height, say, 3 centimeter, right? So in this statement we have to draw isometric of a cube which is resting centrally on a cuboid of 10 into 10 into 3 centimeter, right? For this also we have to repeat those steps only. Again we will draw a line in guidelines which is say ground line, right? Draw all the three axes, axis 1, axis 2 and axis 3. These three lines represents three axes of the isometrics, 30 degree and 90 degree on ground line, right? So first we will draw the base cuboid. Why base? Because cube is resting on this cuboid. So first we should draw cuboid of 10 into 10 into 3. Say length of the cuboid is 10 centimeter. Say this represents 10 centimeter. Width is also 10 centimeter. Mark 10 centimeter on this line also. Say this is axis OA, right? And this is OB. On OA mark length. Say this is length. On axis OB mark width. This is again 10, right? And height wise, say height is 3 centimeter. On axis OC mark height, say this is 3 centimeter, right? Now complete the cuboid drawing by drawing parallel lines like this. From here vertical lines like this, because vertical lines remains vertical to this ground line, right? And complete the cuboid. Right? These lines are parallel, 1, 2 and 3. These are parallel to this OA axis. Okay? The axis which represents length component. Say this is for length, right? And these lines, say 1, 2 and 3, these lines are parallel to this line OB which represents, say, width component, and next is height component, this. So we have drawn a cuboid by drawing quickly parallel lines. right? All lines are inclined to 30 degree in the right direction or 30 degrees in the left directions, or perpendicular lines, vertical lines, right? On this we will draw a cube which is 5 centimeter side. So drawing it centrally, we should draw the central line or central axis. For drawing center point, we can do like this. Take mid of this line, say this is mid, draw a line, parallel line like this in guidelines only, right? From here also draw a line right in the middle like this. So here we have a center